All right, here we go, guys. In three. What's up, everybody? It's Matt Johnson. We are back with a special episode of Real Estate Uncensored. This is the place where you get actionable ideas, insight, and inspiration to turn your real estate career into a life of freedom. We are going heavy on the inspiration side today because we've got a really special guest, which is why we're doing a special holiday episode on Labor Day. So if you guys are having a wonderful holiday, we are live here on Facebook, and thanks so much for listening if you are out there listening after the fact. We've got Matt Cubbler with us, and we're going to talk about his journey from soldier to police officer, entrepreneur, now to author, speaker, super inspirational guy. We're going to talk about leadership, living a life of service. We're going to talk about why in the world Matt would go and borrow $150,000 to get into an industry he knew nothing about in a recession, which is going to be awesome. So, and then they've got some really big things coming out and some really great lessons for us to draw from Matt's experience. So we'll bring him in a second. First of all, my co-host, my partner in things crime and real estate related, Greg McDaniel, the Junior Grandmaster. What's up today?
What's up, Matt and Matt? This is going to be a good show today. Given it a holiday weekend, that's why I'm in a secret, undisclosed location, shooting with on my phone. So I'm in WITSEC, for all of you guys who don't know what that is. Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. Matt, welcome. I can't wait to hear your backstory. You guys, happy Labor Day. Hope you guys are doing something fun besides watching us, have a good show. So let's get this bad boy off.
So, Matt, officially welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah,
the whole Matt thing, we may have to put last letters like of the last name or something.
Yeah.
But
just do what everybody does and call me Johnson. That's fine.
Johnson.
That's
base.
good.
Yes.
My wife's sister married a Matt too, so that's difficult in our family too. So
wildly confusing.
Yeah.
There's a funny story about that actually. One of my best friends is named Casey. Then one of our other good friends, he was dating a girl named Casey. And so we had Guy Casey and Girl Casey, and to this day that's how they're named. So, we're gonna be Johnson, and then we're gonna be Matt. That'll be much easier.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
All right, so Matt, give us the the brushstrokes, the overall who you are, where you are, what you do.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. I was excited to be on this one because it's a completely different format than what I'm used to doing. So I'm really excited to see this as it unfolds. I'm 47. I'm married to the love of my life, Lauren, and I have two great kids. My oldest is a junior in college, Rebecca. She's an All-American swimmer at Bloomsburg University. And my son, Andrew, who thankfully was here to help me get rid of all the bugs here on the computer stuff I was trying to figure out. He's going to be 16 in a couple weeks. And I'm outside of Philadelphia in a town called Royersford. And I'm a cop for 25 years. Did everything in law enforcement you can think of. Prior to that, I was in the military, Army intelligence, but I grew up in a town called Pottstown, which is an urban town about 30 miles northwest of Philadelphia. That's where it all started for me.
Wow.
Awesome. Yeah, I didn't realize the Army intelligence part. And fill us in just real quick on the entrepreneur side of things, because obviously you've got a deep background in law enforcement, but that's only one half of kind of your identity.
Yeah, well, I started I guess I should say I became an entrepreneur in high school, apparently, because I didn't really think of myself as one when I had a term paper writing business where I was writing term papers for money for people. And I was $50 for a C, $75 for a B, $100 for an A. And I never read any of the books. I would write simply on the first couple pages of each chapter and the last couple pages and the summary in the back, and I kind of winged the rest of it. And so I did that. I had stolen 2,000 hall passes when I was in high school. They were like paper hall passes, and I learned how to forge 3 different teacher signatures, and I charged $2 a hall pass. I was more of a hustler, I guess, than an entrepreneur, maybe. But and I had a really small marijuana business, very small, not Pablo Escobar, but for a little while I did have a little bit of a darker side back when I was in high school. So I guess it started then. Without my knowledge, I was an entrepreneur. And I started a bodyguarding business just because it seemed natural for me. I was doing a lot of it. So I started a business and that protected some very famous people. I was Tim Tebow's bodyguard for 5 years.
What?
Yeah. Actually, just his brother Robbie, it's his birthday today, so happy birthday, Robbie. And then in 2009, I borrowed $150,000 from a friend. And me and him and another guy, we opened up a Max Out. Basically, we bought the business out of was heading into bankruptcy. So we got it at a pretty good rate, and there was some technology with it, and we brought it up to Pennsylvania from Florida. It was originally in Winter Haven, Florida, or Winter Park, Florida, outside of Orlando. So I borrowed 150 grand. We opened during a recession, and I'd never been in the gym business in my life. I'm not a personal trainer. I had no background in it. But the technology was so cool, and I saw how much I thought it could do as far as revolutionizing fitness and all that I had to get involved, and we just sort of winged it. And because none of the three of us that opened the company had anything to do with fitness before. So, and
Wow.
then I wrote a book in '06 about my brother, and who passed in 1989 in a car accident. He was autistic and stuttered profusely, and it's just a story about our life together, our journey together, the relationship we had, the ups and downs of being born in poverty and single parent, working 3 jobs, that whole backstory, and then after his death, how my life was really bad for about 13 years. I call it my dark period, where I was depressed. I had PTSD. And I didn't think I could ever have PTSD because I always consider myself tough and prepared. And I just, looking back on it, for 13 years I couldn't love. I couldn't feel any emotion other than anger and hatred and guilt. And so much so, I couldn't love my wife. Literally couldn't love. And I didn't know how to feel it. I didn't know how to receive it. And couldn't love my daughter when she was born. And so for 13 years I went through that. And that's kind of how the book came about. Was the day that I came out of that darkness, I received a quilt from my grandmother, which was made out of a quilt, right? I'm not really a quilt guy, but she gave me a quilt after my son was born, who I named after my brother. And the quilt saved my life. And I know this isn't a religious show, but God showed grace on me and allowed me to forgive and live and begin to heal. And that night I wrote 26,000 words of memories about my brother and cried and held that quilt and came up the next morning after writing all night and had the beginning of a book. And over the next 2 years I finished the book and published it in 2006. And it's the single greatest accomplishment of my life, and it's my constant reminder of what I went through. It's a memory book for my family who never met my brother. It's a way for people who never knew my brother to know him, for me to share him and share our story. And once you write that book and once you put it out there for public consumption, everything becomes public knowledge. So now I have nothing to hide from.
Wow, that's a powerful story.
Yeah, there's a lot to get into. But yeah, let's start with the the relationship with your brother and that process and just anything that you want to share that you think would be helpful to other people, because I know you're doing a lot of public speaking and things like that. So what are the things that you feel like people get a lot of benefit out from the story of you and your brother?
Well, first of all, it's a joy to be able to share that story publicly, and that's what I really do. When people say you're a public speaker, I'm really just an inspirational speaker telling my life story. I don't have aspirations to be Tony Robbins or Ed Milet or anybody else. I just want to be Matt Cubbler, who gets a chance to tell my brother's story and my story as many times as possible, because I think it can help people. And I think, everybody's lost, everybody's felt heartache, everybody's been through something, and not everybody can stand up in front of a room of people and authentically and vulnerably share their something with them in a way that helps them potentially wrap their head around their own stuff. So, my relationship with my brother, he was autistic and stuttered, and this was before autism. Obviously, I'm 47, so this was in the 70s and 80s, and he was older by 3 years. It was just, he was an amazing human being. He was pure. I guess that's the best word I could ever use for my brother, is pure, because he didn't have anger or hate he got picked on every day, got called retard every day, got tormented, and then I would get into fistfights every day because they picked on my brother. And I was little. I'm 6'3", 250 now, but I was 5'4" in ninth grade. So, I spent most of my life short, and so I can sort of understand when little guys feel bad, because I was a little guy at one point in time. So, but I learned resiliency. I learned how to fight. I learned how to stand up for somebody. I learned how to protect. I think that's where my instinct to become a soldier and to go into law enforcement, I think it all was born out of my survival mode I was in most of my life, and being my brother's protector. And when he died, I felt like, I lost a role. I lost a purpose. And I think obviously it broke my heart into a bazillion pieces when he died, but part of that, I think that was a void was left, not just from the human being of my brother, but my role as his protector, and what I got up for every day was to make sure he was okay. And when that went away, I felt lost. And I think that
How
added to
old were
part of
you at the time?
I was 18. I had just graduated high school,
18.
and it was a month before I went in the Army. So I graduated in June. He died in July. I left for the Army in August. He was 21.
And that was, yeah, incredible. And so
1989,
you were already
yeah.
committed to the Army.
Mhm.
So that's interesting. So how did you feel about potentially leaving? I mean, this obviously you committed to the Army before he passed away unexpectedly. I mean, that in itself had to be an extremely hard decision to kind of live your life.
Well, the thing is, I didn't live my life. I faked it
Really?
for 13 years. I put up the best tough guy, hard veneer that I could possibly put up, and inside I was dying. And,
Hmm.
I went in the military. My first day in the Army, I lost rank. I buried my class ring with my brother, and I wore his. And when you get to basic training, they divest you of all your personal stuff.
Okay.
And they tried to take the ring. And I said, there's several things that you can do to me, but one of which is not going to get that ring. I said, do whatever you want. You're not getting it. I said, that's the only thing I got. It's the only thing that keeps me alive today is knowing that that's on my finger. And so there's a thing called grass drills where they make you do push-ups, flutter kicks, and run in place, and you can do that until you puke. And usually people, whatever the thing they're trying to get you to stop doing, stops. I didn't. The 5 or 6 hours they did this to me, and then finally they agreed to allow me to put the ring on my dog tag chain, and instead of giving it to them, which was great because the only way they would have had to kick me out of the Army if any other way. But I lost rank that day. I went in because I early entered into the Army, and they give you a promotion from an E1 to an E2, which is second from the bottom of the barrel. I was back down to an E1 after my first day in the Army. So,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So yeah, that going into the Army saved my life more than anything because it allowed me to leave. It allowed me to leave home. It allowed me to be away from
Right.
everything that was hurting me. The memories, seeing my brother's bedroom, all those things that would just drive you nuts. It allowed me to leave, and I was stationed overseas in Germany for 3 years. I went to the Gulf War. I mean, I saw the world, but I also developed a drinking problem. And, so as much as the Army saved my life, I was doing a lot of negative things towards myself as well. But I met people that to this day are my brothers. And, 26 years later, they're still my family. And my best friend on the planet named his son after me. And he was my bunkmate for 3 of my 4 years in the Army. And so I met people that became my family. So that in that essence, the Army saved my life.
Yeah. And how long were you in before you got out?
4 years. Yeah, I wasn't
4 years.
definitely wasn't a career guy.
Yeah.
I'm not conforming. I don't conform well, which is odd. I went into 2 professions, military and law enforcement, that require rules and regulations. But I've always found a way to make them fit me versus me fit them.
It's interesting.
I found ways to do that allows my strengths and my uniqueness and my individuality to be the thing that stood out, not necessarily the lockstep, regimented mentality. So, so it's worked.
All right.
Matt, where do you think you would have landed if you didn't get into the military? What would have happened in your mind if you did get kicked out that day over that ring? Where do you think you would have landed?
No one has ever asked me that question. I'll be honest with you, I'd probably be dead. The week after he died, I sat in my bedroom with a bottle of aspirin, whether or not that would have killed me or not, but I was going to take 300 aspirin and end it because I didn't want to feel anymore. I didn't want to have that feeling of pain and anger. And I mean, I hated God that I hate him for taking him, and that destroyed me inside, and I'd be dead. There's no doubt.
I've never gone through the loss of a loved one. Not thank God, but I have gone through some.
Well, not that close.
Not
You
well, my
have, just
grandmother
not that
passed away,
close.
but I mean, what I'm saying is like no one that has driven me to take potentially, take my life. But there have been things in my life that have driven me to potentially take my life. And you know, looking back on those circumstances, it was the defining act of my life when these took place that took me in a new direction. And now that I can look back on them, I can say thank God for that action. Not that it was a good one, but it has radically transformed my life. And now I can tell my story. And you're here on this podcast. You've written a book. You've done tons of other incredible things. And unfortunately, because of the passing of your brother, it's given you the ability to tell the story of his life, which is something he'll never die. He will live on forever.
And I think that's the beautiful part is when you write a book, especially a memoir, life story,
Hmm.
life isn't about moments, singular moments individually of their own. They're all connected. Everything that happens in your life is a piece of the other.
Yeah.
And and for me, going back and reliving that when I wrote the book, which was you can't write that book a second time. It's just too emotionally draining to ever go back there again. But the fact that I can stand in front of a room of people and share my brother's greatness and
Hmm.
share all the things that I've gotten from life because of his death, because he left. Because he left, I can live.
Hmm.
I don't know if that would have happened if he didn't. I don't know if I'd be
Hmm.
living like this today if he hadn't left.
Can I ask you a question?
Hmm.
Did you have any purpose before his passing?
I don't know if it was intentional.
Mm.
Like I'm a firm believer that God gives you a destiny. Like he picked me out for something,
Right.
and it's up to me to find that with
Hmm.
the opportunities and the identifying those opportunities as they appear and recognizing what they are there for.
Hmm.
I lived pretty much a life of just, you know, full throttle, young and dumb, just doing whatever. The only thing I really had purpose in was my brother. Like that's the only thing I really tried hard at. I had a 4.0 in high school. I had a full ride to the United States Coast Guard Academy. I turned it down because I was scared to death to be in that environment where I was going to be challenged. I didn't have to work hard for a 4.0. I never took a book home. I never studied, never did homework. I have a photographic brain. I can memorize stuff and I can dump it once I'm done. And I was
Yes.
worried that if I went into that environment with Coast Guard Academy, that I would be outed as a fraud. And the only thing that I actually had any purpose behind me in was making sure my brother was okay.
Hmm.
And that's what I said. When he died, I lost that. I didn't have a purpose
Hmm.
anymore. I didn't know what I was going to do. And and I the death the death and then the 13 years, I did a lot of great things. I mean, I went in the military. I served. I was very highly decorated. I got out even though I had to, lost rank a couple times, but whatever. But I had a lot of accomplishments. I was Army Intelligence. I served in the Gulf War. I went and became a cop. I was one of 4,000 people to get hired as a federal air marshal after 9/11. There was a million people almost that applied for that job, and I got selected for it. And I did that very well. And I've done everything I've ever done well. And during that 13-year period, that was no different. The problem was is that I felt nothing. I did it only because I wanted to do as many dangerous things as I possibly could do in order to put myself in a position to challenge God to take me.
Hmm.
I didn't do it because I was trying to be purposeful in being great. I was trying to be purposeful in challenging God. And the day he showed his grace on me is when I began to actually live my purpose because it made me realize what I had been through, that I needed to let that go and I needed to move forward. And then what turned out to be the book, which then turned into um, my speaking. So like everything I've done, it all connects. And um, I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for it all, every ounce of it. My brother's death, I'm thankful for everything because I wouldn't be able to do this today.
Yeah, that's one of the way you just said it is a very beautiful way of saying it, and the fact that everyone in life has their challenges, and it depends on how you face that challenge is going to be how your life is going to turn out. You didn't know where you were going. You're just pretty much going F you to the world. You know, just take me out, you mother blanker, because, this isn't fair. I don't want to be here. But then you went and you kept succeeding, but you kept failing in your own mind because you weren't being able to join your brother or take his place. But at the exact same time, you were leading men and showing them what you were to what you are now. How many men's lives have you changed? I bet you anything, you have hundreds of men that have come to you, if not thousands of men that have said, oh, I've watched you, I've read your book, because of your story, my life has done blah, right?
I like to think so, and I mean, especially since 2002.
Yeah.
I actually had a guy that I arrested him. I've had a couple people that I've arrested that actually I'm still like friends with, that thanked me for arresting them and changing their life because they were heading down a path that was going down the wrong road, and you don't know that you're doing that when you're doing it.
Right.
I always tried to be the guy that saw what could be in somebody,
Mm-hmm.
even if they were a drug dealer or anyway. I always wanted to find that one, like, can I see that one little piece of them that can be salvaged, and are they willing to salvage it themselves if I give them an opportunity? Mm-hmm. Some people did, and some people did great with it. Some people I gave it and they crapped to bed. But I always wanted that from people. I always wanted to be, if I was going to have an impact in your life, I don't want to be just a guy that arrests you and puts you in jail. Some people deserve that, and that's a fact. But I always wanted to also have an outside impact on other people.
Well, let's talk about how that connects. What's that, Greg?
Oh, just as he's definitely done that without a doubt.
Yeah.
I hope so.
So the life of service, Matt, let's talk about that a little bit, because you mentioned that kind of everything is connected. So we talked kind of about the turning point a little bit on what really broke things open for you and led to the memoir and things like that. Flash forward, take us a little bit forward in how that's played out in your life and how you're doing a lot of different, several different things, I would say, but everything is connected by that theme of service. So what does that mean when you say, like living a life of service? And you kind of shared a little bit before we went live that essentially everything that you do in life boils down to that one word of service. So let's talk a little bit about what that means and how it shows up in your life.
Well, I've been asked a lot, a word that describes me, and servant is the only word that I can think of that truly encapsulates me. I'm a servant to God. I'm a servant to my family. I'm a servant to my businesses. I'm a servant to the communities in which I serve. I'm a servant to my country. I was a servant to my brother. And, my entire life has been sort of in that direction in every aspect, even when I didn't know I was doing it. That's just who I've been. And as a police officer, I try to be as honest as I possibly can in my job. I don't ever want to take my role and responsibility and usurp power over people. I want to do my job, and my job is to solve problems. My job is to serve the community. My job is to protect the community. And as a problem solver and a servant, you combine those two things, it can be very powerful. If I'm helping you, if I'm serving you by helping you and solving your problems, which I've done 100,000 times in the last 25 years, I think I can be a very valuable service. When I'm in my gym business, Max Out, I work with people with neurological and neuromuscular disease. That's my main primary focus within the business. We do personal training and all that, athletes and things like that. But I personally spend 90% of my time helping people that can't walk or had a stroke and can't use their left side of their body, or cerebral palsy, or anything like that. And for me, I look at them as a complex problem that has many different levels of complexity to it, but I try to find the root cause of everything and then sort of figure out where our expectations are, where we want to get to, and then I work backwards from it, trying to find out the path that I need to go in order to solve the problem. And the biggest pleasure I get outside of when I go out and speak and tell my brother's stories, when I'm helping people with the disabilities who have no hope. I'm a guy they get to when they have no insurance left. PT is not helping them, whatever, and some people have been years without any type of physical therapy or anything like that, and they come to my business because they've heard what we've done, and I do it in an affordable way that allows them to be able to afford to come and to see their success and to see how my business, the thing that we started during the recession, the stupidest plan ever with no plan, really. I just wanted to be involved. And the fact that the byproduct of that is we've done 9 years of impacting people who can't walk or have MS or whatever, that we're doing that in our business, which wasn't the design plan, but that's what we're doing. And
Yeah, what was the vision when you took out the loan and jumped into the business? Three guys that aren't really even in that business. What was the vision for what the business could become?
The basis of Max Out when it was originally in Florida was it's a once a week strength training program because it utilizes eccentric overloading on the body. So my device offloads weight during the concentric, which allows us to put a heavier weight during the lowering or eccentric phase, which is pretty much the
negative phase
of strength. Yeah, so you can lower a heavier weight, and then we offload weight so that you're even on a barbell for a squat or bench, I can do it. So you can lower 300, raise 200. It's the holy grail of strength training. Everybody's always wanted to do that. It's a very taxing way of doing it on the muscle. So we created this once a week strength training program, and it's phenomenal. It's still the bread and butter of what we do, but we were going to be the world's only once per week workout, and we were going to focus solely on strength. Get people to go jog or run or do spin class, whatever they want to do. We're just going to be their home for strength, and it was very short-sighted because it really pigeonholed us into only one little small segment of market. We were going to franchise it. We actually became franchise legal. We're not doing it, but we are technically a franchisor. But thank God we didn't do that because we would have failed miserably. But what it turned into, because it's just the franchising world is just so systematic, and the processes have to be so tight. And quite frankly, I like to believe a lot of the success has been my passion for it. And I don't know if I could ever put that into someone else and get the same passion back. Because it's so easy to get into the same fitness model that everybody else does, which is, the standard exercise everybody does for personal training or the CrossFit model or whatever. It's easy to get into that and then try to add Max Out into it, and it would have just been a nightmare, and nobody would have been as passionate about Max Out as I was. So what it ended up being was a place. Basically, we have a lab. I have a science lab that lets me do things to people who have no hope. And I say, I'm not a physical therapist. I'm not a doctor. I'm a high school graduate. I know what I'm doing because I created Max Out, but I don't know anything about anything else. But this is what I can do. And if you're willing to give it a shot, let's see what happens. And it works. And so we've been able to develop processes on what we do with helping people with neurological neuromuscular disease, so much so that some of the big time rehab facilities know who we are and know our success stories. Mike Barwis, who's one of my business partners, he was the head strength coach at Michigan and West Virginia, and now he's the head strength coach for the Mets and the Dolphins, and he's the guy that writes all of our programming and taught me everything that I know.
For Greg, those are sports teams. I would just like to point that out. I feel obligated to point that out to Greg.
That's funny.
Sports. Yeah.
Yes, baseball and football to be exact.
Those are the ones with the little black puck, right? Those are the ones
same thing, different sport.
Exactly.
So the best part is that we get to do that now, and that's what we've done over 9 years is develop ways to help people while we were trying to build a business as a gym. Does that make sense? Right. Like we sort of took a left, and now we developed a new piece of technology that we have 2 patents on, and we're waiting on a 3rd patent that we're launching this month with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So they're a football team too, Greg. And
both of you guys, seriously?
He teed it up. I can't help it.
Yes. Come on.
So that's when you think about serving people, now I get a chance to serve people by selling a piece of equipment that changes their life. So I'm very excited about that. It's obviously a passion, but it's ties directly into what I'm doing with my speaking and my coaching and all that other stuff. It's just all really symbiotic with each other, and
there's so much to love about that story because it really is. It's a pretty good demonstration of what happens when I mean, it's always been, I guess, my belief that even in large, but especially in small and medium-sized businesses, they end up being a direct expression of the person or the people at the center of that business. And yours is a really good example of that, because not only do you buy something that has the potential to be, nationwide franchise and help a lot of people in strength and conditioning, which is awesome. But then as soon as you realize that's not quite like whatever, we need to pivot. What you pivot to is what you're drawn to anyway, which is helping people that need hope, right? That are on that last leg, whatever the case may be. But it's an expression, like you're using the business as an expression of your core values. And and that's one of the things I love about entrepreneurship, is that it's a lot like ministry in the sense that we can help the people that we really want to help, and it's our business. We get to decide if we want to help people that, whether they're lower profit margins, if we want to, make our business into almost a nonprofit where it's 100% driven by fulfillment and helping people that maybe they can't even afford to pay us. That's cool. It's like, it's our choice. Now I love what you're doing there. The fact that you've been able to combine both, which is the people that, make it really, really affordable for the people that need it desperately, but then go sell it at the high end for, sports teams and things like that, because that's where you can make a really good profit margin for the business. So you actually get to really nicely blend both of those things together. You can actually use a business that's profitable to do good in the world. So I think it's an incredible model.
And the funny thing is that, I don't know, it's funny, but the irony of it all, and the fact that, like I said, everything sort of connects in the journey, is one of the kids I mentored when he was in high school. His mom was my first client. She has MS, and she was my first rehab client. And she started it. My friend's mom, the kid's mom that I mentored, and not just some random person off the street who saw, a video on Facebook. It's actually somebody who was part of my journey, whose mother is the first person who started and allowed me and trusted me and believed in me enough to do things that maybe no one else would have tried.
Very, very cool. Well, I know there's a couple questions I want to end with, but before we do that, let people know how they can connect and just kind of stay in touch.
Yeah, I'm all over social media. Matt Cubbler on LinkedIn. Matt Cubbler, motivational, inspirational speaker is my private speaker page on Facebook. Matt Cubbler is just Matt Cubbler. Don't go to Matthew. My cousin is Matthew Cubbler, so if you want to follow him, you can. My Instagram is Matt Cubbler Speaks, and my Twitter is I Got You Pub Speaks. And then my website is just my name, mattcubbler.com.
Cool. All right, so let's finish off here with a little bit on leadership and being a servant leader, because obviously you've been that kind of at every level. What are some of the parallels, some of the things that you've noticed in both in law enforcement and in the military that you kind of take into your daily life? Any of the things that you notice yourself doing that worked in those settings that work out in the business world or just in life in general?
I think one of the things I learned the most about the military is that they set you up to first have the ability and the confidence to be a leader. They prepare you to be confident because they're drill. Everything you do is over and over again. So that's number one. Number two, I was able to learn a lot about myself as far as my strengths and weaknesses. I'm very self-aware. I know where I'm good. I know where I'm not. I know what I should step into and what I shouldn't. I'm confident in me. Like I always say, I'll bet on me every time. Even in opening a business in 2009 when you shouldn't, I bet on me. And I teach a lot of leadership classes to kids. I go into schools. I'm actually launching a new business model that's going to revolutionize leadership at the youth level. And I got 2 schools in Western Pennsylvania. I'm meeting with the local school here locally outside of Philadelphia to talk about launching it. And it's going to be a generational shift in the paradigm of leadership and youth. And instead of trying, and it's going to be an anti-bullying thing too on the same level. So it's really going to change a lot of lives. And unfortunately, I can't talk about a whole lot about it yet, just because it's still I got to get one that's fully bought in, and then I'll do a big press release on it. But it's going to be really, really cool. And I'm going after the majority of the kids in the school that are all fit into one sort of I don't want to say niche, but I guess niche. If you think about it, and I'll just give one little hint. 60% of most schools have kids in sports.
Okay.
And if you can get 6 out of 10 kids to buy into something, when you have the ability to actually connect with them on a daily basis, on a consistent daily basis, that's how you do it. That's how you solve the problem.
Mm.
Instead of trying to stop the bully from being a bully, you create a population of winners and leaders and victors, and you reduce the victim population by doing so. And so that's kind of the way I'm going about it. So I'm excited about that. So that's what I've learned, like the ability to bet on me, know what I'm good at, and then teach others how to figure that out for themselves is kind of my background in leadership development.
Wow.
Gotcha.
Wow. I know that, I'm, as a athlete myself, I know that anyone of influence when I was a high schooler, doing sports, I mean, that was, my coach, I still remember him, Coach Rainier. Dude, that guy would throw chairs across the basketball courts, but we would all follow that guy because he was a leader for us. And I mean, if he was introduce something like that to us, I know that we'd all follow. So I can't wait to see how the success this program is going to bring.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I mean, it's going to be legendary. In order to quote our friend Chris Lockhead, it's going to be legendary. And I'm going to do some epic shit.
That's right. Well, yeah, and you'll have to come back and tell us once you can speak more publicly about it, because that's definitely something that I'm fascinated with and very interested in is how we train up just the next generation of kids coming out of school. I've gotten a little bit, vocal about my upbringing and homeschooling and stuff like that, and just how much of a positive impact that had for a lot of the same reasons, Matt, I think that you were talking about the military had on you, just the ability, the self-awareness, knowing what you're good at and what you're not, and then betting on yourself. That kind of like homeschooling for me gave that to me. So I'm always fascinated by things that have the ability to kind of transform the next generation by getting them in those formative years and giving them different tools, different resources. So I'd love to hear more about that. And everybody should follow you, mattcubbler.com, and then on Instagram, Matt Cubbler Speaks, because you're active there. But man, this is seriously very, very awesome. We really appreciate you sharing your story, and I hope people get into your world and stay on top of you and what you're doing, because you've got some really, really big things coming. We really appreciate it.
Man, it's been a blast, and I know this is a real estate. People are like, "What the hell's happening to this show?" It's real estate. But no, I know we have a mutual friend, Jay Niblick.
Yes. How do you know Jay? Well, I know he's in Philly, but
he lives a mile from me, and he's one of my.
Are you serious?
Friends. Yeah,
that's awesome.
So he just turned 50, but he's got, he's with the Wise Hire thing, and I know that's a big real estate thing. He was on your guys' show. So, what's up, Jay?
What's going on, Jay? Yes, he's been on the show several times actually, and we love having him. He's a blast.
He's
all right, well,
brilliant.
Greg, let's finish out with this, Greg. How do people reach out and connect with you, and why in the hell would they want to do that?
I'm a nice, lovable human being, Johnson.
And speak up.
Reach out to me, guys. Go to bookmcdaniel.com. It's bookmcdaniel.com. Let's talk about EXP, guys. Look, the market's shifting, the industry is shifting, the way we're going to do business is shifting. As Matt talked about, his life, came across some interesting turns, to put it lightly. And you know what? There are going to be turns in all of our lives and our businesses. And if you guys think doing real estate is going to stay the same way that you've done it in the past, you are sadly, going down the wrong path. So let's talk EXP. Let's just see if it's the right path for you. Let's see if it fits your life model. So go to bookmcdaniel.com. Let's book 30 minutes, and let's get on the phone and chat. So that's how we get a hold of me. Johnson, anything you want to talk about?
No, just for the show itself, make sure to subscribe. Go to iTunes, go to Apple Podcasts, go to Stitcher, whatever the case is, download it, subscribe to it, rate it, and review it. If you enjoyed a specific episode, like if you like Matt Cubbler's episode, make sure to give him a public shout out, publicly thank him for his time and sharing his story in your review, which is always awesome to see that happen. And then, guys, go to reinvented.com. You can keep up with all what we're doing and the latest episodes, and get all the back episodes of the show and all the links out to YouTube, get video versions. All that stuff is on the website, reinvented.com. So, with that being said, we appreciate you guys watching, listening here on this holiday. If you're listening after the fact, you missed it, sorry, but at least you get to listen to the audio version after the fact, and we really appreciate that too. So thanks so much, guys. Thanks, Matt. Thanks to the audience. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you on the next one.
Later, guys.